Hi, and welcome to Thursday Comics. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, which is available for pre-order in the link in the show notes below. And that same pre-order link will allow you to pre-order the softcover version of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. So here's a comic created by both of those men. Journey into Mystery with the Mighty Thor, number 106. The Thunder God Strikes Back. How can Thor hope to defeat Mr. Hyde and the Cobra after they've taken his mighty hammer from him? Our pledge to you, if you don't like this epic battle, you might enjoy Millie the Model. Taking a little pot shot at one of their own books. And great cover. And I love when I have the actual issue of one of these old Thor comics. This guy looks pretty familiar. Kind of reminds me of Mr. Smiley from Prez. The Mighty Thor, the Cobra, and Mr. Hyde feel Thor's mighty rage when the Thunder God strikes back, concluded from last issue. I couldn't have said it better myself. And here's your recap. My enchanted hammer is somewhere inside that complex machine. Without it, I'll turn into the mortal Don Blake within 60 seconds and be at the mercy of Hyde and the Cobra. Written fairly well by Stan Lee, drawn not too badly by Jack Kirby, inked kind of nice by Chick Stone, lettered pretty fair by Art Simic. And again, Jack Kirby's the co-writer of this story, even though he's not credited as such. And so we get this recap of the previous issue, drawn really nicely. The Chick Stone inks are looking, better than ever. And when you have these original comics, I mean, the color just really pops. It looks so great. And I feel like some of these restoration efforts that they do in some modern reprints where they darken the blacks and sort of even out the colors, I think they do the work a disservice. And that the sort of high quality photographs with minimal retouching and often a warts and all approach is really the best presentation of this material. It just looks so amazing, and it really loses something when you take away all the texture that we get from the nature of the printing process that was used back then. And so these little bubbly borders let you know you're in the recap, and now we are in the eternal present where all great superhero comics take place. Now, the final panel of the previous issue was kind of like this. They're sort of coming at him with the clock ticking, and that 60-second countdown clock that Thor has when he's separated from his hammer ends up being used to really good effect later in this issue. But look at this 3-panel sequence. You just feel the ripple of that wave coming through and hitting those guys. Really beautifully done by Jack Kirby. Very, very original. When you're learning how to draw, one of the things that they talk about in drawing class is cause and effect and empathy, being able to sort of like look at the materials and really get like a feeling for what they are, and having cause and effect in your drawing, having, all the different elements interact with each other. And you really see great cause and effect in this picture, the sort of push and pull of that flooring and the way it's cracking and what it's doing to those figures. And then, Thor jumps into the action. We have this tightly packed, panicking crowd. And then now, with a flash of light, Don Blake is part of that crowd too. Really beautifully composed. All the various people in the crowd sort of have their own personality. And his hammer that was stuck inside that machine has turned back into the walking stick. Mr. Hyde and the Cobra are looking for Thor, who's disappeared in their own way. Hyde is sort of barreling through the crowd. The Cobra is slithering between their legs, and people are sort of jumping out of the way. Just really nice specifics there. And then the police arrive at the scene. Don Blake is going to see if maybe now that he's kind of like smaller, if he can, reach in there and grab his hammer. The Mighty Thor also appears in The Avengers, which we sometimes highlight on Thursday Comics. He's not able to find his hammer in there. Mr. Hyde is threatening the crowd, and so if Thor doesn't reveal himself, Don Blake steps forward and heroically but seemingly cowardly offers to offers to lead Mr. Hyde to Thor. And so everybody's yelling at him for being, such a turncoat and letting Thor down that way. He says, okay, if you get my walking stick out of there, then I'll lead you to Thor. So first, the Cobra tries it, and just, another beautiful, like, sort of 3-panel animated sequence of the Cobra getting in there. It just looks great, but he can't quite reach it. He sees it, but he can't reach it. He tells Mr. Hyde about it. Mr. Hyde uses his powers. He can't slither, but he can sort of brutalize his way through things. He rips the machine apart, gets the stick out, gives it to Don Blake, and ba-boom, he's Thor. Again, another way of showing the transformation that we haven't quite seen before, this sort of, angled close-up. You can really see the difference between Don Blake and Thor's, just their shape. He kind of widens when he transforms. The eyes are still the same. Thor is kind of in the He-Man pose. He's kind of posed like the He-Man action figures, which, Masters of the Universe, the Marvel Universe. And now Thor's got these guys just where he wants them, smashes through. Again, just really great sort of animation here. And I really like the color. I like this sort of, neutral color of the shadow area, and then this, almost sort of magic hour coloring here, these sort of like orange, where the light's hitting, and sort of like a grayish purple where the shadow is. So yeah, the Cobra's had it. Now Mr. Hyde turns this machine on Thor, and Thor, digs in with his hammer, sends an energy blast back at Hyde, and now those two guys are tangled up. The police show up. Mr. Hyde drinks his potion, which turns him back into a normal guy, doing the same trick that Thor and Don Blake did to sort of blend into the crowd. But they do get their hands on the Cobra, and this is a motif that Jack and Stan return to from time to time, where you have sort of like a duo, and then one of the guys gets captured, and then the other one kind of has to like sort of go on without him. Now Hyde is stalking him in his civilian guise, because Thor would never recognize him, and then he finds the opportune time when Thor's sort of alone in an alley, walking down a dark alley. He takes his drink, and again, another 1, 2, 3 beautiful animation transformation, and he is, ready to fight. Knocks the hammer out of Thor's hand, and Thor's like, there's my hammer. I can get it. But you know what? This time, the Thunder God makes a startling decision. Let it lay. If I cannot defeat this evil being barehanded within 1 minute, I am not worthy of the name Thor. Man, I love this part. It's kind of a surprise, and like, these Marvel heroes are usually so, especially Thor in particular, are usually so sanctimonious and goody-goody. And he's like, no, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to make this a little harder for myself, because I relish the challenge. It's kind of like, he's kind of like having some fun. And it's so rare that, you see these Marvel heroes kind of enjoying their power. So it's just a nice note. It's unexpected and just fun. And he's like going to relish kicking this guy's ass. And it's like, if I lose, I deserved it, because I should be able to kick this guy's ass. So you get, great action pose. Only Kirby. Nobody was doing this kind of stuff, prior to Kirby. And they go in for the fight, and it is just one of these, beautiful Jack Kirby Donnybrooks. It's like I'll beat you with one arm tied behind my back, and throws him through. It's kind of like a precursor to those, battles that we see with Orion in New Gods, like Orion versus Calabac or Orion versus Slig. And again, where you get a chance for like the hero's personality to come through, and kind of, a little bit of like bloodlust and sort of relishing combat. And there are going to be stories with Thor where Odin chides him for like being overcome by the warrior's madness and like enjoying fighting too much. And this is kind of the beginning of that. It's just like a really nice grace note. letting the story breathe, and I'm all for it. So he knocks him into this tenement apartment that kind of, is maybe not too different from the apartment that Jack Kirby grew up in. And Mr. Hyde throws the hot water heater at him, and he's screaming in his face. Again, it's Thor will later fight Ulick the troll, and Orion will fight Calabac. So it's kind of this thing of Kirby's sort of, god heroes versus like brutes versus these like sort of beast men. The story, the fight continues. Like the main story in Thor is now 18 pages, and then we get the Journey into Mystery backup. So, Kirby has some room to breathe, and he's putting it to good use, figuring out like the different ways he can use this new canvas, this expanded canvas. And so we just get this really great fight. I'm not sure exactly what's happening here. I think maybe Thor's like about to pounce on Hyde, and then just as his fist's coming down, Hyde like scoots himself out of the way at high speed. Or I don't know if maybe Thor like bops him and sent him like flying between his legs or whatever. Hyde is grabbing a piece of the cement stair stanchion and hitting it at Thor. It's super combat, super wrestling or something. As the story goes on, we get Thor counting down like, okay, I got 40 seconds, 50 seconds. I better wrap it up soon. 45 seconds, only 15 seconds left. It could only have ended like this, mortal. So the countdown is just fun. It really gives the fight a little extra like immediacy. Like I really enjoyed this fight in a way I haven't enjoyed a superhero fight in a while. Ding, 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 in the nick of time, puts his hand on the hammer, and 5 seconds left to retrieve my hammer. Let me grasp thee, my beloved Uru mallet. Let me feel thy heft. Together we are as noble Odin would will it, invincible. It's just great. The guy loves his hammer. And the police mop up. He swings the hammer and flies away. Hello, Jane. I've returned. She doesn't hear me. She's watching the late-hour news. I returned as soon as I could, Jane. You! How can you stand there? How can you look me in the eye after what you've done? I heard about it on the news. I heard how you betrayed Thor, told Mr. Hyde where to find him in order to ensure your own safety. To think that I once thought I loved you. Jane, my darling. Wait, let me explain. She's gone, but what else could I expect? A girl like Jane would never love a coward, and that's what she thinks I am. As Thor, I am forbidden to love a mortal girl, and now even as Don Blake, I have lost the girl I desire. Thus, even in victory, I find defeat. Is loneliness and sorrow the price I must ever pay for being Thor, the god of thunder? So yes, some great soap opera there. We'll find out what happens next, with Jane and Don Blake. It's not easy being a hero, and some great classic Marvel stuff right there. Who says this isn't the Marvel age of comics? Man, look at that lineup. I mean, really, really a golden age. As promised, we get Tales of Asgard. The Marvel Comics group proudly announces the start of a new biography, in depth, Balder the Brave. So we get the story of Balder the Brave, and we get Vince Colletta's first appearance in a Thor comic, and you'll really see how he, earns his spot as like the full-time inker in Thor. It really looks great. Like it's a new aesthetic for Thor, and it's really appropriate. The scratchiness just looks great on these, like on the fur and the wings and Odin's beard and stuff. It just looks great. So a little bit like an adaptation of an old Norse myth, but Odin is chewing out Balder. During the battle, Balder fought bravely, but then he sort of stopped partway through, and Odin's asking him about it, and he said he saw a bird that was, yes, sire, I saw a bird fall from its nest, and I turned to place it back with its mother. And Odin, doesn't believe him. He's gonna punish him now. So Balder is now stripped to his waist, and everybody's lining up, and everybody's gonna take their shot. So first, the archer shoots at takes a shot at Balder, and everybody's doing it reluctantly. They don't want to do it, but it's a command from Odin, so they have to do it. Great looking, mobile throne Odin has here. Kind of like a cosmic folding chair. He's got sort of like the Kylo Ren, high waisted pants, no shirt look going on in here. And so the guy takes his shot, and then a bird swoops down and stops the arrow. They don't explain it this way in the story, but my thought was like, oh, is that the mother bird whose baby Balder had sort of helped earlier? And so now a guy's going to throw a spear at him, and then the plants grow up to stop the spear. There's like a myth where everybody's sort of taking shots at Balder. And that's how Balder ultimately dies, because he's invincible. So he kind of like lets everybody take these shots at him, and then he's got like a weak point, and then somebody throws like a dart that's made out of mistletoe, and it hits him like right in his weak point and kills him, and that's the death of Balder. So this feels like a riff on that. And now it's Thor's turn. Thor's about to throw his hammer at Balder, and he knows that hammer's going to split his skull. And at the last second, Odin stops him, and it's kind of like the story of Abraham or something. Just sort of a test. God was just sort of testing, Abraham's faith. Stopping before the thing happens. And Odin says, again, like I don't. It doesn't quite work for me, but it's fine. It's myth stuff. But yeah, Odin says that he was the one who sent the hawk. He was the one who made the plant grow. It was I who summoned the hawk, I who called forth the plant. For I have a gift for thee, brave Balder, the gift of invincibility, the gift which can only be won through trial and test. From this day hence, nothing can harm thee. Here's Balder, sort of talking to the birds. He's this sort of, he's this mighty warrior, but he's also a gentle soul, a very popular archetype. And so there you have it, a great main story, a great Tales of Asgard with some great Vince Colletta inking. Maybe the ending's a little bit muddled for my taste, but still great. Just look at all these. Every one of these guys could be the star of their own comic. And we're just, the Thor comic, has just gotten so good, and guess what? It's going to keep getting better. I'm Tom Scioli, author of I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and you can find a pre-order link in the show notes below to pre-order that book, and at that same link, you can pre-order the softcover edition of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I'll see you next Thursday.